I would have been returned.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Papillion La Vista Community Schools Board of Education hearing to set final tax request, September 23rd, 2024. Please rise. We'll start with Section 1, call to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Roll call.
Mr. Madler.
Here.
Ms. Fisher.
Here.
Ms. Witt. Here. Mr. Bailey.
Here.
Ms. Wood. Here. Mr. Lotus.
Here.
All present.
Thank you. I'd like to point everyone to the open meetings law that is posted at the entrance to the room. I do not see any public comment for this meeting, so we'll move on to item 2, hearing to set final tax request. The purpose of this hearing is to hear support, opposition, criticism, suggestions, or observations of taxpayers relating to the 2024-2025 final tax request at a different amount than the prior tax year request. Item A, presentation of final tax request. Mr. Richards.
Thank you, Mr. Madler. Good evening, everybody. So we want to jump right into it here. We're kind of in a position where we've had a lot of valuation increases in our district, which is good and bad. The bad part is when valuation increases, state aid decreases, and that's the way the formula works at the state level. Two main revenues for school districts are state aid and property taxes. And when valuation increases like it did last year of 13%, this year we're seeing a 9.36%. State aid decreases from $28,878,380 to $21,053,217 for this year, which is about $7.8 million that the district lost from the state for 24-25. And that is worth around 8 cents of property taxes lost in revenue. So if you're looking at it from a property tax standpoint, that's how much we've got to try to make up just to get back to even to where we were in 23-24. So you can kind of see that's been our last 4 years. Valuation increases have gone up pretty good around Papillion La Vista schools, and just over $35 million in 21-22 of state aid, and we're down to $21 million and change this year. And so our property tax continues to go up a little bit as well. And you can see from the next slide that, you know, in 2021, we had a little bit more yellow, which is state aid, kind of as revenue in the district. And now in 24-25, you can see the property taxes were more reliant on those within our budget. But it has, you know, you can see our overall revenue the last 2 years has actually gone down since 22-23 with these two main revenue sources. Part of that is some of the special education money that Governor Pillen's bill put in to our system, so we were able to lower the property taxes a little bit during those times. So that property tax cap of 3% kicks in this year, which means we have a maximum asking of $88,596,784 by law. So we broke that out and took the special building fund down about $400,000 so we get a little bit more property taxes in the general fund. You can see how it breaks out there from our maximum asking. Totals from general fund, property tax, and state aid, you can see we're actually down over $1 million from 23-24. Our proposed property tax rates for 24-25 are just over 91 cents for the general fund. Bond fund, we've really tried to keep that under that 20 cents. I think the year before we passed the bond, it was at 23 cents. So we're able to keep that lower. Now we'll ask for some more dollars this year. Here in October, we'll have Cody Wickham from D.A. Davidson come back in. We'll ask for another, 25-30 million to keep our bond projects going. So we'll have another payment that we'll have to make either in June or December, what we decide here. Special building fund, just a cent, 1.6 cents this year compared to 2.3 cents last year. I think the reason for that, I feel a little more comfortable discussing that with the Buildings and Grounds Finance Committee from a standpoint that a lot of the bond stuff is taken care of. Our HVAC boiler issues that are older that may fall out. We'll still have some of those occasionally, but we're replacing most of that equipment in the last 2 bonds. Overall tax levy history, you can see back in 1819, we have $1.30, and then about 2023-24, the Governor Pillen kicked in the special education money that reimbursed us a little bit a higher rate, and we were able to give a lot of that back to the taxpayer that year. And now we're kind of back in that cycle again, where valuation goes up, state aid goes down, and we try to lower it a penny or two still in what we can to keep our revenues up there. So, we're kind of at that same pattern we were in from 2018-19 to 2022-23. You can see where we're lowering the rate a cent or two each year. I'm like you, we had a special session on this. It did not get fixed, the property tax problem. So we'll be back in session here in January again. We'll see how that all works out. And, if all things stay the same, I said this at the tax hearing, Sarpy County tax hearing the other night, we're in a position where we'll be unequalized here pretty soon, and we'll be able to do a lot better with our tax rate once that happens, because you won't have any state aid to get back. Our floor is just over $18 million right now on state aid. That means we can't go lower than that under the current rules of state aid and the formula. So you can see we're just over 21 million now. We can only drop 3 million next year at the most. So at some point, we'll be able to take those taxes and give them back to the taxpayers after we get our overall tax cap of 3% total revenue, not just property taxes, total revenue. So that'll be good news for our taxpayers in the future if things stay as is. Any questions I can answer for anybody? Oh, I got to go through the budget still. Sorry. The general fund is going to see a 2.6% increase if everything stays the same. We had our budget hearing, and it's on the agenda tonight for approval. The bond fund, minus 14% decrease in that, just the way the payment schedule works out for this year. Special building fund, 1.6% increase. So overall, we're looking only at a 1% overall budget increase within the schools in those 3 funds. And then if anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to talk to people about our property tax request and explain how that all works.
Any questions or comments?
Just a comment, if I may, Mr. Madler. First off, I wanted to thank our board members for attending the Sarpy County tax hearing that was graciously hosted in Gretna Public Schools last Thursday. Mr. Richards shared identical slides, so no new information. By my estimate, we had at least 200 people in that school, so a really great show of support by our community members. I think they had mentioned we had over 40 public commenters. Not all of them were Papillion La Vista. I counted a little over 10. But certainly, I think that tells you the level of interest that this topic has for our community and for our taxpayers. So again, thanks to those that showed up. Thanks for the board members and being there. We really appreciate it. A couple of really important points, though, that I've made before that I think bear mentioning again, because it came up over and over and over last Thursday at the tax hearing. And I think if there's one overriding theme that I heard, it was this notion of I am deeply frustrated by my escalating property values. And that's a very real concern, and I bet just about everybody around the table has probably seen their respective homes go up by pretty significant amounts in the last 3, 5, 10 years. And I get it. It's a very real concern. But as a reminder to our staff, as a reminder to our community, as a reminder to our taxpayers, we do not, as a school board, as a school district, have any control over your property valuations. We can control 2 levers, and 2 levers alone. Lever 1 is the general fund and the overall budget spending, which Mr. Richards just outlined. 1%, 2.6% in the general fund. That's lever number 1. Lever number 2 is the marginal tax rate that is needed to support that budget. And when you go back to the slide 2 or 3 slides ago, you will see we have either held steady, one more, thank you, Mr. Richards, held steady in the case of 1920 to 2021, or dropped the levy for 7 consecutive years. So the two levers that we can control, the budget where you're seeing 1% overall growth, and then the levy where you can see pretty dramatic declines, particularly the last couple of years, this board is doing everything it can within its power to both control our spending and to control the marginal tax rate. I understand if you are concerned about your property valuations, but this board has no control over that, and I'm not trying to assign blame by any way, shape, or form. We just want to understand where the money is coming from and where it's going, and these slides really outline that. So thank you, Mr. Richards, for explaining this, and particular thanks to the board for not only keeping the budget growth at a very reasonable level, but being committed to keeping that tax rate at a lower level year after year. That is no small thing, and it's something I'm very proud of for this board. So thank you, Mr. Richards and board.
If I could bring some up real quick, since you brought that up. Sorry, I wasn't going to comment, but I do appreciate you, saying that, because I know that you're right. That's what we heard, and I know everybody's frustrated. And I mean, I think the whole idea of that meeting is broken. They're complaining to the wrong people about the valuation and everything. But one of the points that you made, and a gentleman jumped on you, and I think Gretna as well. And I know you didn't mean it this way when you mentioned that 86% of our budget is our staff. And to me, that you weren't trying to make an excuse. You're trying to show that, that, hey, we need to keep, recruit and retain the teachers, the fantastic teachers and staff that we have in this district. In order to do that, we need this type of budget, that it's gonna have to go up. We have to, be able to do that. So I appreciate you said that. I felt, like I said, that guy was, he was definitely not happy. Well, he wouldn't have been happy with anything, but he was definitely, I think very off course when he started saying that you were blaming the teachers. You were not doing that at all. You were simply pointing out, where our budget lies and everything. And so I appreciate that you doing that. I appreciate you and Brett having to sit up there and take all those comments, because I got tired of listening to them. It was interesting because, like I said, the valuation was what kept getting me. And I, like I said, thank you for bringing that up again to let people know that we don't control that valuation at all. So thank you.
And one other note on the levy, like Mr. Richards said, if not for that drop in state aid, we would have been able to drop our levy about 10 cents, not a little more than 2 cents. And for those that had the double-digit percentage increases for their property taxes, if we wouldn't have had the drop, the increase would have been about, 2.6%-ish, about what we are just increasing our total budget. And that's what you're saying, where hopefully in a year, while you don't want to lose more state aid, it will make it more steady of an increase for our property tax holders or taxpayers going forward, because then we will be stuck at that, the baseline foundation aid of $1,500 a student.
Yes.
And it just makes it more steady for everyone. Even if their valuations are going up, which we don't control, it will at least be more steady on our side on the property tax ask.
Yes, and that, since I've been here, and I know the board has, made that a priority down in Lincoln for the legislative session each year, to have them look at that property tax situation and how that affects our property taxpayers. And, I've testified on it last year as well on how that affects our property taxpayers, and appreciate your support on that, and I think our community does too.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? No? Okay, then I will adjourn the final tax request hearing at 6:13. Then we'll move straight into our regular Board of Education meeting. We will roll over the call to order from the tax hearing. So moving on to Section 2 Communication, Item A, Military Advisor, Colonel Klesiak. Welcome.
For us tonight should go relatively quick. The first coming up on the 2nd of October, our school liaison officers are going to be presenting their State of the Schools report up through the MIC3 channels. That's that Military Interstate Children's Compact Commission. And the report basically just focuses on the last year and what are some of the issues that came up or were resolved by the MIC3 Compact. and some of the back and forth negotiations that we have with parents that are coming in or leaving the district and the the school districts themselves. Spoiler alert on this, it's going to be nothing but great news. There's been a lot of work that we've done through the MIC3 Compact, but it's all been great working with school administrators to be able to go and to take care of individuals coming in. The biggest challenge is really trying to figure out how to place students that are coming in and some of the classes that they're going into. What one class was in one school district in one state, what's the equivalent that we have in another school district in another state, and how do we assign the students to the right ones? That tended to be most of the problems that we had this last year, and like I say, all of those were resolved very well by the school administrators. The second is on the 5th of November, our school liaison officers, they're going to be holding a virtual school transition workshop on how MIC3 works. And while it's primarily dedicated to our parents, it's also great for any teachers or school staff that would like to attend to be able to go to that. And again, that's the 5th of November, and that's going to be from 17 to 1800 hours. And Dr. Villarreal will send that information to you, make sure that you have that, if it hasn't come already from our folks. And then lastly, we know that we're going to be getting into trying to get information for impact aid for our military-connected families. And just letting you know here on the board that we're going to be doing everything that we can on our end to make sure that we're reemphasizing with the parents of our military-connected students, and that's military members and our civilians that work with the military, to make sure that they go and work with the school districts to be able to go and to submit the information that we need for that. We know that's another item of income that comes in to help to cover some of the programs that you all offer to the students, and we want to do our part in making sure the parents know how they can support the schools, and this is one small way of doing that. So we plan to leverage our public affairs on base to try to make sure that we're reaching out to our parents there so that they go and do that. And if there's anything else that you can think of or any ways that we could help to be able to go and support getting the information from those families for impact aid, please make sure that you pass that up. Our school liaison officers, I know they're in contact with members of the board, Dr. Villarreal as well, but if there's anything, I'm willing to take those myself and make sure that we can do everything we can for that. In a lot of ways, it's free money that we have, and again, it's what we can do to try to make sure that we're supporting schools that take care of